Walking is one of the best activities you could do, hands down, for health, longevity, and yes, fat loss. But what we're going to talk about today are hacks. Hacks you can use to take your walking to the next level to enhance its fat loss and health improving effects. Let's go.
Hold little 3-pound weights and pump your arms.
Oh, no. I'm so glad you said that. One of the hacks is not walking harder.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here.
Hard walking.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No. We're going to talk about
It's still a thing. You see it every once in a while.
You
right?
do. And that's what people think. Like, how would I make my walking more effective? And what they do is they turn it into running or something.
Prancercise.
No. We're not going to talk about that kind of stuff. But first, let's talk about why walking is just in general so amazing. I think the first reason is because people can still do it with relatively good technique. So the average person can just walk more, and we don't see this risk of injury. We don't see, people have to like dress in workout clothes and schedule it kind of stuff. It's like, it's one of those easy things you could do that most people can still do. And you see these just general improvements.
Hopefully not a lot of barriers to entry
Yeah,
for that.
you guys say that now. We'll see how well this ages.
Yeah.
Well, we see all the rascal scooters, so we're up against a new force.
Well, I mean, and the way that tech is evolving so fast. I mean, did you guys think at this point in your life that you wouldn't ever have to go to the grocery store or go get food?
Yeah, you're right. We're on our way to Wall-E.
Yeah,
but for now, it's not the case.
Right.
Now, the data on walking is pretty incredible, and that's why we advocate for it so much. By the way, I never advocated for walking as a form of activity as an early trainer because I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Back half of my career is the number one thing I recommended. And the data on this is pretty interesting. Most of the benefits, about 85% of the benefits you'll get from walking occur right around 8,000 steps, meaning 8,000 steps a day for most people. You're going to get most of the benefits of walking, so you don't have to go crazy with it. And most people can accomplish 8,000 steps a day by just adding a walk or two a day and being a little bit more aware of their movement. So it's not a hard accomplishment, and then the health effects are they're incredible. It's easy to do, right? So let's talk about the first thing you can do. This is all backed by data, by the way. Frequent walks are more effective for fat loss and for health in comparison to one long walk. In other words, one 90-minute walk would be less effective overall than 3 30-minute walks. And you could do this across the board, right? 3 10-minute walks are better than 1 30-minute walk, and et cetera. So walking throughout the day is better overall for your health and longevity than having one really long scheduled walk. And I think this is good news for people because rather than have
to achieve.
Yeah, it's easier to achieve. You don't have to set out a block time to go do the 45-minute walk. You could literally walk a little bit throughout the day, set your Apple Watch or your alarm. Oh, here, I'm going to go do my 10-minute walk. Kind of do that a few times a day. And you're better off than doing one.
Well, I can imagine too a lot of psychological benefits to that in terms of breaking up your day, and then also like being able to kind of decompress because of our normal schedule is so driven and we're so productive. Like if you're not productive, then God forbid. And so to break that up and then just be able to kind of have a meditative space for you. Mentally would serve you quite a bit.
Well,
as well.
list all the reasons why, right? Circulation, digestion, blood sugar.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
I think that one's not talked about enough because I would say one of the hardest things for people to do is to adhere to a diet. One of the things that cause some of these cravings to be so difficult to resist is those large spikes and crashes in blood sugar.
Yep.
If you made a habit to every other hour or every time you ate to
controls it.
It controls it. It really mitigates the swings.
Absolutely.
And those swings play a massive role in these cravings that people end up getting. And so and that's like one of those things that I don't think people think a lot about. I mean, I think most people understand that movement, activity, blood flow, calorie expenditure, those seem pretty obvious, I think, to the average person. I would make the argument on the blood sugar and cravings one maybe being even bigger, and you don't even realize that it's doing. Most people don't realize that's what's happening.
And the big one, and I'm not even overstating this. It's easier. It's as a trainer who trained lots and lots of people were more consistent with their walking when I had them do small walks throughout the day versus one long walk. At worst, they would miss 1 or 2 small walks, but still walked. What happened with the long walks, if they missed it, they missed the whole thing. It's just harder to schedule. So consistency here is like paramount And this can't be overstated. But, there's studies just besides that, right? There are studies that compare cardio in general, like 1 hour cardio versus 2 30-minute sessions. And there is a fat burning advantage to the frequent shorter sessions as well. And it's not a huge advantage, but if you stretch that over time, it makes a big difference. So it's easier and it's better for fat loss. Like for me, this is a no-brainer. Now you brought up blood sugar. Here's the second hack: walk after your meals for insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
This has a profound effect on your body's insulin sensitivity. And all the longevity experts now agree that insulin sensitivity is a very important metric for overall long-term health and longevity. Your ability to for your body to react to insulin, in other words, stay sensitive to it, right? If you go in the opposite direction and start to lose insulin sensitivity, that leads to pre-diabetes and diabetes. But it also causes mitochondrial dysfunction, damage to the body and cells. And it also starts to increase your body's fat storage capacity, or just the tendency to store body fat. Also hurts your ability to build muscle. So walking just right after you eat, right? So 10-minute walk. If you did a 10-minute walk right after you ate, this has such a good, consistent effect on blood sugar. I remember talking to Dr. Seeds about this. He's, an expert in this field, and he said, "Man, if people just walk for 10 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we would mostly solve type 2 diabetes. Yeah, just that alone.
Yeah,
just that one thing alone. So take your walks, make them smaller, time them after meals, and you have just taken your 30-minute walk that you might have done during the day. Now you got 3 10-minute walks, and it's far more effective, especially if you do it after your meal.
And also pay attention to so I think one of the things that made this become an easier habit for me is that there's a very clear difference on how I feel, like the way the food got digests.
Totally.
If you eat and you go sit down, or you stay seated at a restaurant, or you plop down on the couch right after having a big dinner or a meal, pay attention to like just how you feel. Just you can feel the food trying to digest, and then compare that to a day where you just finished dinner and you go, let's go for a nice 10, 15-minute walk, and compare the way you feel. Do that a couple times and really pay attention. That was enough to like sell me on why, because you feel so good.
I'm very sensitive to this. So I'll give you my personal anecdote. So I lift weights really hard in the morning. Then I come here and I eat breakfast. Now, lifting weights is very good for insulin sensitivity. And if you eat within a few hours of a heavy lifting session, you're going to control blood sugar quite well. So I come and eat breakfast after lifting, and I feel fine. Now, if I eat and I don't lift, especially if I eat the kind of meals that you guys see my breakfasts are pretty big, I'll start to crash about 40 minutes later. I'll start to feel sleepy. But that doesn't happen to me when I work out first, right? Then we come in here. The next meal is lunch, and after lunch, we typically go on a short walk, which is about 20 minutes long. If I do that walk, I don't get the crash later.
Yeah.
If I eat and then we sit here and record, I find myself nodding off during the podcast. I start to notice this. What's happening, my blood sugar is not being affected very well. My insulin sensitivity isn't very good, and the way it feels for me is like brain fog and fatigue. So I notice it. I'm very sensitive to it.
Yeah.
So it's a big one. Next, this is a hack that will, it's called habit stacking, but really what you're doing here is you're making the walk feel more valuable to yourself and somewhat more enjoyable. And that is to listen to growth-minded content while you walk. Now, data on this is pretty interesting. If you're walking while consuming information, you're more, this is something for people who are studying, by the way, for tests and stuff. You're more likely to retain it.
Yeah.
And you're more creative with your thought process. Writers have known this for a long time. One of the ways to break through writer's block, or musicians know this, right? They're trying to write a song. What do? They go outside and they go—
change your environment.
Change your environment. So while listening to, in fact, one of the number one ways that our podcast is consumed with our listeners is either on a walk or while they work out. And what they don't realize, they just hacked into a way to absorb more information. And the reason why it's your body's moving, your brain works a little bit better, and it also makes the walk more enjoyable because it's like this pro-growth minded activity. This is one of my favorite things to do if I go on a walk, is to put my headphones on.
And just another way too to make it turn into a habit, because you start to pair it with other things that are valuable to you. I mean, when you think about the walk that we do, it's a business meeting.
Yes.
Every time we do it, we're working outside the business. We're talking about our staff. We're talking about the next month, whatever. And so, that meeting, every company our size or bigger has meetings like that every day. But traditionally, people sit around a desk or big oval, and then everybody sits around in a room.
Bagels.
It's like, and so, one way that we've hacked into this is just, we could still be productive and have those meetings. We could do it while we walk, and then I just think they're far better because of that. So it's like we're killing two birds.
We're actually more consistent with meeting when we walk than when we don't. Sometimes we'll sit in here and kind of be distracted and type of deal. So no, and so it just, again, the data shows you absorb more information. It feels more enjoyable, and you're actually going to probably be more likely to be consistent with your walks. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show. Lastly is to walk with someone else, especially someone that you consider important in your life. What this tends to do is it tends to foster the relationship because you're making time aside to spend with that person and you're walking while you're doing it. You brought this up first, Adam, how going for a walk with your wife on a daily basis is a great plus for your relationship. I found the same thing with my kids or with my wife. Like, we're going to go on a walk, take them with me, even if it's for 10 minutes. It's good for, our connection relationship, and I'm doing the walk at the same time.
Yeah. Any good therapist will tell you, like, a strong relationship is rooted in good communication. And I think a lot of people have the skills or at one point had great communication with their spouse, or else they probably wouldn't have married them. But what we tend to do is we tend to fill that space up or distract ourselves all day long, or we just get so busy that we don't even realize that we've lost that communication that we have. And so creating this space for, this is my opportunity to go for a nice little walk. It's also a great time for me to leave my phone at home and my wife to leave her phone at home. And then the two of us just walk and just create that space with no intention of, we need to talk about these things, or it doesn't go like that. It's just, we're going for a walk.
Yeah, it's funny how you end up like sectioning off areas of the house, like and divide and conquer within like really close proximity. And you're just not having that connection with eye contact and body language, and all of that's like lost. But when you're walking, it's like you're very open and receptive, and a lot more, you pay attention a lot more.
There's different levels of communication and things to communicate about. You're right. Like that. And I think that happens with a lot of couples, especially ones that have kids and building a life together. Obviously your children and household responsibilities and your work takes a massive priority. When you marry a great partner and teammate, you guys realize that dividing and conquering and focusing on things is one of the best ways to be successful. But many times we lose ourselves or our relationship and the other things that we fell in love with or what we really like about each other. And so creating that space, I have found in our relationship it's probably close 1 and 2, the biggest hacks I've shared before, the reading or the listening to audiobooks at night and or the walks, I think have just been these incredible relationship hacks with going in with, like I said, no intention of like, we need to do this or we need to talk about this. Like, I think sometimes people make that mistake.
It's
like
the space.
Yeah. They wait for there's like, we need to talk. So let's go for a walk. I said, well, you're going to enjoy that all the time.
Yeah.
But if you make a habit of we need to walk, and some of the rules are we leave our phones there and just create that space, tends to open up a lot, connect better. And for some people, depending on how much you've disconnected, it might take a few times before that starts flowing again, but it's a beautiful thing when it does.
It's funny, this fit tip, it's so general and it seems simple and just for your everyday average person, but even just talking to somebody like Alex Whitehair recently, who brought up the fact that even your most high performance, professional athlete doesn't walk. They do really high explosive movements, and they train really hard, and they sit around. Yeah. And it's just like the benefit of walking itself is that reiteration of the skill of movement. And it's just something that it has so many other benefits to it, like that we had mentioned previous to that even like somebody at a really high performing level needs to incorporate every day.
It's the most fundamental of all human movements.
Right.
And it's the one thing that we do better than any other animal is trek. For long distances, it's walk on 2 legs. This is one of the determining characteristics of a human is that we can do that very effectively. So pretty cool. So I got to bring up a really interesting study. Very rarely does a study come out revolving around strength training or athletic performance where I go, oh, this might actually change a few things. I mean, studies come out all the time, but the fundamentals don't change, and I don't get my mind changed very often. But this one kind of did. So you guys are familiar with like electrical muscle stimulation, right? Stim machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stim's
been around forever.
Yeah, but it's a huge trend right now with weight training.
Okay, so
huge trend.
So check this out.
It's cyclical.
So stim is, if you've ever gone to physical therapy, they'll put the little electrodes on you, and they turn on the machine. It makes your muscle flex without you doing anything, so involuntarily contracting the muscle.
And all that really is happening, Sal, right there is you create a negative and a positive. You run electricity through that muscle, and you're just artificially contracting.
That's it. That's it. And the way it's been used traditionally is to prevent some muscle atrophy or to help in rehab with joints that you can't move. You have a knee injury. I can't move my knee very well, but I'm going to atrophy my quads and my hamstrings. So we'll use stim to minimize some of that. It doesn't fight it off completely, but it does minimize it to an extent. Or if there's a rehab and I need to connect to a muscle, they'll use it. And there's some definite benefits. It's a staple with physical therapists. Now, it's often marketed as a way to work out. So, and I've seen this cyclically, put this on your abs, like doing 600 crunches a day, and you just, you're at your desk, and you're just flexing your abs.
Just
or
add it on top of everything you're already doing.
Or put this on your butt, or put it on your calves. And the data on that is like, you're not going to build muscle using these stim machines. So it's kind of a waste of time. However, what I have been seeing, and we now have data, what I have been seeing are these interesting videos where they're attaching stim machines to people's muscles while they strength train the muscle.
Yes, that's what's become popular.
Yes. So like someone's doing a squat, or let's say they're doing a bench press. Traditional bench press, I'm just pressing the bar. Well, what they would do is they would put stim on my pecs, and as I'm pressing, stim, the electrical signal will go to my pecs to make them contract even harder, and I'm going to press the bar and then lower while stim is contracting the pecs. Now, when I first saw that, I thought, nothing. You're already contracting it hard. You're pushing against the weight. I don't see how that could potentially benefit. Well, there's a study that came out that showed people built more muscle using it.
Oh, wow. That's why the bodybuilding community has been, it's so funny. You're saying that a study just came out. This has been very popular in the bodybuilding community for like the last 4 or 5 years. Last 4 or 5 years.
I've seen it.
It's all over. I've got tons of my friends and peers that are into this now, where they hook themselves off to it and they work.
So how do they do it? Because here's the downside. How do you set this up?
Bro,
you bring your machine to the gym.
Yes, it's ridiculous. That's why it's comical to me. I'm just like, I mean, the way I was dismissive about it is just like, even if this studies show that it has some benefits, this would be a pain in the ass to lug this around.
I would never recommend
it. It
this.
just sounds to me like they're intensifying the recruitment process.
That's exactly what it is.
So, you can do that with overcoming and yielding isometrics. So, I mean, you could, and that's actually tangible. You don't have to have a fucking huge setup of machine and everything to lug around to the gym.
Yeah. So, I mean, to Justin's point right there, I would love this, right?
I would compete those studies.
Give me the guy who's got the machines all hooked up to him. Let's do a, Romanian deadlift together, since that's a popular one I see them use. And let me do a prime before
like a PAP, boom,
right before doing some isometrics, right? So really, really prime, floor bridge wise or something, right? And then go into my Romanian deadlift and see what I get out of it, and then let you go do a Romanian deadlift with your machine, and let's see how much of a difference.
Here's where I see it. First off, I don't think this will ever do well with most people because the setup is ridiculous. It's a lot of like just getting the average person to strength train.
It's the 1% of 1%.
Yeah, you're going to get first of all, the muscle growth benefits I see in the study are significant enough to say, oh, it built more muscle, but it's not this huge effect. But there is an effect. It does build a little bit more muscle. Average person's not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm a fitness fanatic. I'm not going to take a stim machine with me to the gym.
Yeah.
It's going to add another 30 minutes to my workout. And
I can see bodybuilders doing that on like machines, like an isolated exercises versus compound. Compound's a little weird.
Here's where I think this is going to be interesting. When you take high-level pro athletes that have all the money and training and time in the world.
Yeah.
And also the difference between 2% improvement in performance is a big deal.
Well, that's who I see doing it right now. So in the defense of the people I see doing this, these are high-level bodybuilders, bikini athletes that this is what
This is their life.
Yeah, it's their life.
Yeah.
And so dragging a 100-pound e-stim machine with all these wires.
So here's what I want to say to you guys. I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, average person is going to do this, but it does build more muscle. Very interesting. I could see high-level athletes, or this is what you do for a living. You got time to waste in the gym. I could see somebody coming up with a stim shirt or pants or something for a body part, and it's specific for that area. So it's like back day, back shirt, and it has electrodes hooked up.
Oh, don't be surprised.
And it's got a little battery pack, and it's super easy.
Don't be surprised that's already out.
I could see that, making it super convenient.
I've actually seen that, but they still have cords attached.
Right.
Yeah. Which is
just cumbersome.
Yeah, very cumbersome.
But I could imagine something being like more svelte, little battery pack right here. It's not out of the way. It's back day, so it's a back
tell me
shirt.
we got so fired up about this we didn't even get into the study. Yeah. What you said build more muscle, but that could be so. Come on,
it was statistically significant. I think in order to do that, something like So now the study was done over the course. I want to say it was 12 weeks or 16 weeks, but over time this could produce better results. Because they're cumulative. You know where I can see the value of this? In hard to target areas because you have poor connection.
Well, I was thinking like
I can't feel my glutes.
I've seen it in like hamstring stuff where and hamstrings tend to be underdeveloped on most people. And so you're doing a squat or a deadlift and you attach it there and you do it, or glutes, like you're saying. Like
I could see an expensive setup though, right? Imagine you buy like a piecemeal suit and it's like, this is chest day, this is back day, here's my leg day. And then it's already hooked up. You put some batteries in there, ready to go. I can see something like that. I'm sure someone's going to do it now. I said it.
I'd be curious to see if you could measure the output in terms of the amount of recruitment while you have the stim attached, and then like over time, and then when you took the stim off and tried to replicate it. Does it train the body? Does it go away immediately?
That's a great question, Justin. I bet you
would imagine it crutches it.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know, because you might be training the recruitment process.
He's right. I think so. I think you'd be right because
but it's artificial though, so it becomes dependent on that outside source.
It is, but just like stim for rehab, it does maintain more of a connection than not using it.
Yeah, but that's different though. It's because you have something that was casted up or not, and then now you have something that's at least artificially contracting it, and that's blood flow and getting some sort of that's slowing down the atrophy. It has nothing to do with it's creating a consistent, strong signal that you're going to have after you're done with it.
I think
that's more that it's staying active when it would normally be dormant completely.
Yeah, but I think
that has to play the biggest role in atrophy.
Yes, but I think what Justin's saying, and I might agree with you, Justin, is because the muscle contraction
is performance related, not rehab.
It's two ways. So if I stim a muscle, that doesn't mean my central nervous system doesn't recognize it. There's some signal going on. So I would love to see that. I would love to see if you use it for a while, if you could take it off and maintain more of a connection or more muscle fiber activation. I don't think it would be better than like isometrics. Definitely not.
Or if there's like a specific time length for you to actually build that adaptation versus, if you cut it short, you didn't really adopt it.
You know where stim would probably be really well done, Justin, is isometrics. That would make a lot of sense.
Of course.
Turn it on, isometric, overcoming, force.
Yeah, the amplitude of that would be crazy.
And these machines that they're using now are strong. I don't know if have you guys ever used like a really strong stim machine?
Oh, yeah.
They're gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
Like they hurt.
It sounds like a cattle prod.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So, because I still stand with my original argument with it, because even when I saw the people doing it, I thought, okay, somebody has found out something about this for it to get trendy again like this, or it also wouldn't be moving like it is again.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if you convince me by a study that it gives you I just don't, because there's lots of ways when you think about a 12
Well,
weeks,
it's not a priority. It's on the list of things.
Not
that you
only
can do.
that, Sal, but it's like when you think about in a 12-week study that was used to prove that this gives you 1% more muscle gains. There in a 12-week window, there's a plethora of other things I can do to get 1% more muscle gains than just training a certain way too. That could be incorporating failure training. That could be chains. It could be isometrics. Yeah. It could be one more set. It could be, it could be a lot of things. So something that just moves the needle by 1% is okay, neat. It's it has some, it's not worthless to do it, but it's like, they're very, very small percentage of people. The person who this is, it's my bodybuilding client. Who's been bodybuilding for 10 years.
It's the fanatic who's doing everything.
We're at peak physique. And hey, we haven't tried this. Yeah. we've turned every other stone. We have this one thing, because otherwise, I think every client that I've ever trained, even high level athletes and bodybuilders and people like that, even though they're at the 1% of the 1%, there's still always very obvious stones for me to turn.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I could optimize his sleep. Like could be better there.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Or, oh, wow, he's never incorporated isometrics in his training. I could do that. Oh, he's never used resistance like chains and bands. Oh, I could do that. Like, so there's always, in my opinion, there's even the highest level, there's other stones that you could turn that doesn't require you lugging a 100-pound machine with wires.
The hell out of yourself.
Yeah, and setup takes 15, 20 minutes.
But I will say, for someone like me who's has fun with
the science geeking out.
I would love a shirt or something like that could do that, and I would test it and see. And then I'd see if it was a pain in the butt, and if it sucked, and if it was ugly.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Can you, I mean, the only way, like you said.
You're right, because these machines that they're using are not like little cheap.
No, the ones I've seen, these guys they look like.
It's got voltage.
Yes.
They probably have to plug it in.
Yes.
I don't think it's a battery.
Yeah, no, you have to plug it in.
It's like an IV tree you're bringing
and
with
it's
you.
not, they're not doing it, they're not doing just one connector.
No.
They're like fully, there's like 16 of these pads all over.
It isn't the one you get on Amazon that's like, make your abs work out.
No,
like
the ones I've seen, these guys are like I mean, it's pretty funny what you see. And
that's so cool.
You know what, I had a feeling that somebody had to have proved something recently for it to gain that kind of popularity, especially because these aren't dumb people doing it, that I'm talking about. Like these are people that have been bodybuilding for a long time with great physiques and are always looking for I'm like, oh, somebody figured something out, and this is like the new trend
looking for
right
the
now.
edge. It's out there.
That's so funny. But soon we'll see a bunch of knucklehead kids doing it.
I got to make this announcement real quick before we move into the topic. We're going to be the scholarship that Rock Recovery gives away to people who need help, rehab. Right, there's a rehab facility. They're giving it away at the end of this month. So this is the month they give it away.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So if you haven't entered, enter now.
Yeah. So if you or a friend or loved one needs help or consultation, you'll get it no matter what. And then they'll give away one scholarship where they cover the cost, which is
humongous.
It's tens of thousands of dollars.
$60,000.
Very expensive.
It's a $60,000. It's a 4-month rehab course. You go and you stay there, and they take care of you and help you get off whatever it is that's ruining your life. And we know the people that run it. They've been on our podcast. They're really, really great people, really, really good people. So really cool.
Awesome.
I got another cool study for you guys. I just read this study, and I thought it was pretty remarkable. There's a few things you can do that would yield these types of results. Now, some people are going to roll their eyes because it has to do with religion. Fine, whatever. This is data. Even when I was secular and I saw data like this, it would perk up my interest. So they did a study in 2009 on the effects of simply reading the Bible on a regular basis, and how did that impact your life? How did it impact your life? And here's what they found. If you read your Bible 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or 3 days a week, there was almost no impact. By about 3 days a week, you started to see a little bit of impact. Once you got to 4 days a week, things started getting really interesting. So people who consistently read their Bible 4 days a week or more, and this is for like 10 to 15 minutes a day, not like reading for hours a day. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's what they found. Loneliness went down 30%. Feelings of bitterness went down 43%. Anger went down 32%. Alcoholism went down 42%. And consumption of pornography went down 60%.
Wow, those are big numbers.
Yeah. Those are numbers you can't you dismiss.
Yeah.
And it was nothing else. They controlled all the factors. Reading your Bible 4 or more days a week had that big of an impact.
I mean,
on all those things.
it's your version of healthy food. For what if you did that same study, right?
Yeah.
We did a study that said people that eat
healthy
whole foods 2 days a week or 3 days a week, or once they start getting 4 or 5 or 7 days a week, eat that way, how profound are the changes in their overall health? Well, no shit. Yeah. No, so would be your mental and spiritual health if what you're intaking 7 days out of the week was the Bible. I mean, it's like, Yeah, I get, and you can be a secular non-believer person,
But that's data.
and that still applies.
Yeah.
It still applies, and it's because you're the positive information is whole foods. You know, it's so good for you, regardless of your beliefs or whatever.
Well, I sent this to a friend of mine who's he's not he's not religious. He's not atheist, but not religious. And we talk. Him and I talk. He asked me questions because I'm new. I'm a new Christian. And I sent him this, and he said, "So what do you think I should do?" I said, "I don't know. Try it. Even if you don't believe it, just try reading it. 5 or 6 days a week for 10 minutes a day, and then let me know what happens. So I'll let you guys know what he ends up finding from doing this. He's never read it. He's never done it.
Now, did you send him in the direction of like a daily devotional that's already guided for him?
I told him to start with the gospel, with the New Testament. So start with Mark.
You should get him like a devotional book.
Yeah,
it's hard to read books straight through like that for somebody who's just getting introduced.
It is,
to it.
but I just started reading the Old Testament, and had I not read the New Testament first, the Old Testament is hard.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. Dude.
Yeah,
it's just like That's why I like.
Oh God, bro! And it's also like Exodus is like paragraph and paragraph of details of things.
They're listing off generations and names, and like it's very.
And also, here's how
historically.
Here's how you build the tabernacle, and it's like 3 pages of like specific instructions. I'm reading. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so. What am I reading over here? What's going on?
Each book is different in its intent.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
you have to know that.
Yeah, and I understand it points to the New Testament also. But anyway, I thought that was a pretty interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear their progress or whatever what comes of it. I should say,
dude. I got to tell you, my kid made me crack up yesterday. We bought this gluten-free granola that my older daughter will add to high-protein yogurt, like the one you eat. Which great advice. She's been eating that for breakfast, so she's getting like 20 grams of protein right out the gates. And so my son the other day comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, can I have that delicious snack?" I'm like, "What snack?" He goes, "Cremola." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it's crumbs." Because, it looks like crumbs. Yeah. So he calls it cremola. Yeah. Bro, Jessica and I were on the floor dying. I'm like, it should be called cremola. Yeah. We were dying.
They come up with the
kids are hilarious.
Oh, dude. They come up with their new vocabulary.
Yeah.
Dude.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. We have a free guide titled Understanding Your Mood, Stress, and Sleep. It tackles all of those things from a health and longevity perspective. It's a totally free guide. So just click on the link at the top of the description below.
Max was on a roll yesterday. So Katrina picks him up from school yesterday. She's telling me this because I didn't get to witness it. Unfortunately, I would have died if I would have witnessed it. And sometimes he's just full of energy when he leaves school and all excited and happy. And she picks him up, and he's like, sometimes he wants to run on the way, race me back to the car and stuff like that on the school strip or whatever like that. And she says today, he's like, "Mommy, watch this." And he starts throwing karate kicks. What? And she was like, "I was so impressed. I've never seen him do this." And she's like,
"How did he get that?"
I know. She's like, he was like really good. Yeah, watch this. Roundhouse kick. All this stuff like that. And she's like, "Whoa, that's really good." And she's like, awesome. I can enroll you in a karate school and we could do a karate school. He's like, "Nah." And she's like, "Why? They would teach you more kicks and you get better." "Nah, Mommy, I'm just pretending. I don't want to battle."
battle.
No, not interested. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I got excited when she first started telling me, like, "Oh shit, are we gonna be able to do karate?"
Did you ask him where he got these moves and stuff?
Yeah, Katrina was saying that they're just pretending. I'm sure one of his friends, did it first, and then they were all probably.
What is it about that little boys love so much? I was infatuated.
You go from sticks that are guns to like karate moves. That's like a staple. Like it was funny. I watched my kids go through that same process, and there's just like, "Check this out, Dad." They like jump off the couch, go, they knew the sound effects and everything.
It reminds me of the clip from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's so that we're like they're taking it serious. Look at this, Mom.
Yeah.
I want to come home to Starla.
Yeah. So he did that. That was after school. Then I was home for the second one, and he's taking a bath, and he tells Katrina, "Mommy, record me." And she's like, "I'm not going to record you. You record yourself." So she tells him, record me, right? She's like, "What?" And so she sets up the phone on the bathtub, and she goes ahead and she records him or whatever. And he starts doing his own YouTube channel.
What?
Yeah, he welcomes the audience.
Oh, no. What?
And he's like, welcome to Max Science, right? And he's got his
why is my heart swelling right
bro,
now? This is amazing.
Right till I show you the video. I have all the whole video. There's 3 clips. They're all 1 minute long. The first one, and he's like doing the science thing, and he kind of stops talking. So Katrina's like, okay, are you all done? And then she stops recording, and no, don't stop. And so she hits record again, and then he tells it, thank you for watching Science with Max. There's also Play with Max, and he named like his other.
He's got other channels coming out with.
He's got other channels, and so he does it again. He kind of pauses for a second, so Katrina thinks he's done. No, and then she turns it on the third time, the last time, and he says, "Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe."
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Like, where did he get this? And then I realized, like, that show Danny Go, and I guess in Blippi, they all say that. I guess he's obviously picked up on it.
Yeah.
It's not something I've taught him or encouraged him to do.
Make sure you subscribe. There's a Play Max one. There is a Making Max one. Those are all one. And there's when we get up and we did the one with Cookie. Okay, thank you for watching Science Video for Max. Thank you.
But he just did that out of nowhere, and Katrina caught it all on film, so it's hilarious.
Why do I feel so?
That's great,
bro.
right now?
Science Max. You could watch Play Max. You could watch all these other channels, and he's like, subscribe. I'm like, oh my god, it's so.
That's
the
funny.
thing to me that is so cool and so wild with him is that, and every dad, I'm sure, and mom go through these things. Like, you see parts of your child you love, and then you see and I think I don't know, maybe I'm just this way. Right away, I always think, okay, well, that's good, but then what's the potential negatives of that? He's going to be this kid, right? That's how he's so sweet, so he's going to get bullied, right? That's what I think right away. And he's so, kind of quiet and calm and relaxed. I'm like, man, is he going to be not outgoing? Like my wife and I are so outgoing and personalities and friends, and like I want him to be social and like that. He's not. He's so, even though he has this incredibly calm, quiet, chill. The guy he could play by himself for hours and not make a sound and be fine. He also has this other side where he's vocal and outgoing and personable. And so it's really cool to see that side of him come out. And that's not one that I saw coming whatsoever, but I'll share the clip with you guys.
I have this
it's
like selfish, dream. It would probably never happen. Like the selfish dream that like one day our kids start a podcast together.
Oh, I mean,
you know what I mean? They all take our spots.
It'd be wild if that happened. For
I
sure.
would love. I mean, I think probably every parent.
I would cry. I'd watch it and cry
every parent. I think their dream is that their kid
does what they
takes.
Of course, that's why it's selfish.
It's like I wonder too. Like, what is the move? For you guys are obviously ahead of me, so you probably think about it or pay attention to it more. On like, how much do you introduce them and talk to them about it without pushing them away, yet wanting them to be interested in it, right? I mean, you have
There's
your
a balance, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
You have two, and they're both different on how they like. One's super interested, one doesn't really care, right?
Yeah, one just thinks he does one thing one time and is the expert and knows it, and then just moves on. I'm like, what, dude? That's frustrating. But sometimes things stick, and and then that's where I kind of start watering it a bit more. I think I wait a lot more. I kind of like, oh, it's an interesting idea, kind of
slow play,
loosely slow play, yeah. And then then my youngest, he's a little bit more like, I'm going to try this out. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then he'll try it out, and then he'll either abandon it himself, or then he gets into it, and then he really gets into it. And then he just grinds, and he's outside and he's like working on that. And that's where I start stepping in. I'm like, if I see you like making all the extra efforts and I'm not coming in to say anything, I'm like,
you match their energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I try really hard to do that. And
That's
sometimes
so
I get
good.
excited and I'm like, woo, when I come in.
Bro, I suck at that. You're so good with that. I suck at it. I get excited, and then I'm like, Salesman Sal comes out, and I'm going to sell you every. My wife checks me hard. I caught my.
It's easy to do.
I caught it. So she's always, my wife's always trying to help me with this, because she's like, if you get too excited, then they do it because they want to please you. They're not doing it because they actually like it themselves, and and she's right. And I did this the other day. My son, we were eating dinner, and he doesn't want to eat broccoli. And so just subconsciously, this just happens, right? I pick up the broccoli, like, oh, this is like a little tree and I'm a dinosaur. Arr, arr, arr. So my son's choking down broccoli. He hates it, and he's choking it down. He's like, And my wife's like, you don't have to eat it if you don't want to. He's like, no, I like it, Mom. And you can tell he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Like, damn it, man. I'm going to like make my kid have a bad relationship with broccoli because I force him. You know what I mean? I try to convince him that it's, you know.
Katrina's the same way about watching Max because and of course, as a dad, I love it, right? That my son wants to do everything his dad does and is all into it. But she does it all the time where I'll ask him, what do you want to do? And he'll, well, what do you want to do, Daddy? And she'll be like, no. Who cares what Daddy wants to do? What do you want to do? I'm like, hey, leave him alone. He wants to do what he wants to do. She's like, no, he can have his own ideas and his own things he wants to do. It doesn't always have to be what you want to do. I'm like, I didn't force it on him. He just wants to know what Dad wants to do. So she's always cutting that off, right? And always trying to make him, no, you tell Daddy what you want to do and he'll do what you want to do, not always what Daddy wants to do. So
Dude, I got to bring up a conversation. I know you'll love Adam. I had with my cousins this morning. Got into a heated discussion and debate, and it's such a big myth. It's such a big lie that we believe that the culture sells us for whatever reason you believe. That when you bring it up, people get so defensive, but the objective facts remain around it. So here's what happened, right? So we're talking this morning through text, and it's just you typical good morning, what's going on, whatever. And they started commenting about how it's impossible these days to live a normal life without dual income. It's impossible. Our grandfather had it so much better. Back then you had one income, and my grandma didn't have to work, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, oh God, this is such a terrible lie and a myth. And so we're going back and forth, and they're like, yeah, but the cost of living and this and that. And so I had to like really slow down because I got heated, and I backed off, and I said, okay, we got to do apples to apples comparison. My grandfather had one car. He didn't have a TV. They didn't have credit cards. He didn't have internet. They didn't have cell phone. They never ate out, ever ate out. They didn't have a washing machine. My grandmother sewed her kids' clothing when it tore or whatever. They bought clothing maybe once a year. And so I'm saying we got to compare apples to apples. They're like, well, yeah, but the cost of a house in San Jose. I'm like, San Jose in 1950s was rural backwater town.
Yeah.
If you want to compare San Jose today to a place in the 1950s, compare it to the most expensive metropolitan city in the 1950s, and then you have a better compare. So we're going back and forth, and what we've done today, this is the lie. The lie is that we think we have all these essentials that we have to have, and that's why we need all this income and whatever. When in reality is, if you shave it down to the way people lived a generation or two ago, it's actually easier today to live.
It's such a triggering conversation.
So triggering
to tell people that, but it's true, bro. And and the reason why it's sold to us so hard, you guys have to people have to understand that the metric at which we decide makes us the best country, or that our country is successful, is the growth of GDP year over year.
Consumer.
And in order for GDP to continue to grow at the rate we want it to always be growing or better, it requires all of us to continue to buy more. If we all simultaneously decided to buy less, we would crash GDP. It would literally go the other direction. And we would be all scared that the economy is crashing and it's so bad. And so the narrative is always, you need more. You need the new iPhone. You need the new television. You need the new, and we've bought into that so much that we're all running the same race that people didn't really give a shit about in the 50s. And that's not to be said that people weren't trying to somewhat keep up with the Joneses or have
it's human nature.
Yeah, it is human nature to do that. But it's become a widely accepted narrative amongst everybody now, where it was maybe a person or two on the block was infected by this keeping up with the Joneses, where we all are now.
Yes.
Everybody is.
And there's so many things we consider essential now.
Yeah.
That like I said, like how many expenses do we have that didn't even exist or people didn't have? Like my grandparents didn't go on expensive vacations. You know what vacation was for them? If they were lucky, camping. That was it. They never ate out, ever, because they didn't have the money. They didn't spend all the money. They had one car for the whole family, and they didn't finance it. And so if you compared apples to apples, even the houses, here's my favorite part. They kept going back to the house. House is expensive. House is so expensive.
But your average track home now is like 2,800 square feet.
Do you know what the average size of a house was in the 1950s?
I would guess 1,200 versus
900 square feet.
Oh, 900. Even
the
smaller.
average house in America was 900 square feet in the 1950s.
What is it now?
2,800 square feet.
Oh man, I was right on there.
So when you look at the price of houses, because that's what everybody, the cost of living, houses are so expensive.
Yeah, you get four times a house.
Do it, adjust it for inflation, do $1 per square foot, and here's what you're going to find. It's easier today than it was back then. So
people don't like to hear that though.
No,
dude.
man.
People don't like to hear that.
Because they don't want to give up, and I get it, but
it's just,
it's a terrible lie.
One of the best books I ever read, I wish I found it earlier. By the time I found it, I had already kind of started to piece this together myself, although it still was a good read. Millionaire Next Door. Such a good old book, been around forever. And I think a lot of the studies and the things that they reference in that book is like so important for, especially if you're a young, ambitious person like I was, that was very much so attracted to that lifestyle and that level of income and things. And it's like, if you don't figure this out, what you'll find out is that you just keep moving the goalpost.
Of course.
And you're always driving towards something, and you're always not happy or not enough because you just keep moving that. And the most wealthiest people are not who you think they are. It's the people that learned very early how to live well below their means. And then over time, they've accumulated wealth and invested.
Just to back you up, Adam, the average family today spends considerably less time together than they did 1 or 2 generations ago, okay? So today, the average mom, dad, and kids, if you add up the time they just spend together, eating meals, being together, it's less than they did 2 generations ago. Okay, now here's the kicker. We have more time-saving devices today than ever. We have devices in our home, on our phones, with our schedules that save us time like never before. But what we've done is filled that time with more distractions, entertainment, and crap. So all these innovations have only, what they've done is given us less time with each other. Yet we have more time-saving devices.
Yeah.
We have more money and more stuff than ever, but compared to 2 generations ago, and here's my argument with my cousins, people are sicker physically, they're sicker mentally more, and they're spiritually more ill today. Mental illness today is worse. Chronic illness is worse than it was back then. So we have more stuff, we have more money, but life isn't measurably better in many of these metrics as a result. And that's why it's such a lie. It's such a lie because then what happens is people, if they don't understand this and know this and they're unhappy, the button that they push is more money and stuff. It's because I don't have enough money. That's why I'm not happy. We need more things. Yeah. We need a bigger house. But it's a huge, huge lie. And so it's really important to understand this. Now, the other side of this is like, well, okay, well, I'm going to live. You want me to live in a way that's so different from everyone else? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the data shows if you live like everybody else, in fact, RFK right now.
Listen, the very uber successful people have figured that out.
Yes. If you look at, like, for example, right now, RFK is speaking to Congress, and he made this incredible point. Yeah. He said, he's talking about kids' health. And, for years he litigated against
nonpartisan.
He said 66% of kids are damaged in terms of their health. Like when it comes to autoimmune, food allergies, when it comes to diabetes, like it's true. Like kids are way sicker today than they've ever been before. So we're in a place where it's like, okay, if you live like everybody else with all the stuff, then you're probably going to not be happy and you're probably going to be sick.
Right.
So in order to be different than everybody, you have to be different than everybody. And it's scary to be different than everybody, but I mean, it takes courage.
God, I can't believe the square footage, the average square footage was 900.
900. And they had more kids.
That's crazy.
And they had more kids.
That's crazy. When you think about that, we had more families, had more.
Everyone's like, everybody owned a house. Yeah, it was a 900 square foot house.
That's so crazy. 900 to 2,800 is a huge difference.
You can't find a 900 square foot house to buy. Do they even make them?
Rarely ever.
Call them molecule homes now.
Actually, those tiny homes are just what homes were in the 50s.
Yes,
I mean, that's what a tiny home is. Pretty much that. Yeah. It's roughly that. Have you guys ever seen? Doug, you have to look this up and see if you guys haven't seen it, because the image to me is the most powerful thing. I've seen this imagery before, where they do heat maps.
Yes.
On where you spend the most time in your house.
Yes.
And they'll show like a 4-bedroom, 2,800 square foot, and then like it breaks up the percent. And it's like very eye-opening on like how little square footage you actually need.
Yeah, just
and
by
use.
Based off where you spend your time.
Yes.
People don't spend any time in like 2 or 3 rooms.
I mean, this was so one of the things I was always really proud of Katrina and I that we did was we postponed the, settling down and like buying the home we'd live in for a really long time. And we got the opportunity in the 13 years we've lived together. We've now lived in 4, 5 different houses. And each time I've gone for different things. And if you would have asked me in my 20s, what does my dream home look like and what do I want or need? I would have painted this picture. It looks so different, especially size wise. Like I really thought like that was for me, like I wanted this giant house. And over the time of living in all these different houses, I never had anything over 4,700 square feet, but that's pretty freaking big. I realized like when we lived in that much square footage, there was rooms that I didn't go in for a year. Like even open the door, you know what I'm saying, to it. And it's like, what a waste that is. And so as we've continued to like change, and then right now we're building out our house right now, like we've really built it around like, what do we use? Like what? And that I don't need any more than that.
The kitchen has got to be the most important
room. It is.
room.
The kitchen, family living room is, and that was what we did right now. This when we blew out these walls. So it's just one big open space because that's where we hang out 90% of the time. And then our bedrooms.
That's
and
where
then
you emphasize. Yeah,
yes.
That's your place where you're going to want to, spend money and comfort. And so, I know we did the same thing. In the floor plan we have right now is absolutely the best. Like and I've considered that heat map because my first house, it was like there was at least 2 rooms that you just end up putting stuff in it and then it becomes storage, or it's just like nobody's even using it and you're just like, what a waste.
Right.
So
is that it right there, Doug?
Yeah, it's a study that was conducted by UCLA, and there are areas of the house, obviously, that don't get much use. In this particular case, dining rooms, porches, things like that. Obviously, bathrooms get a lot of use.
Yeah.
Kitchen, family room.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Living room, not so much.
My dad
oftentimes.
said that. I remember my dad said that when I was a kid. My guy grew up poor in Sicily. Okay, so they had very little space. He had to share a bed with his siblings till the day he got married. Okay. And I remember him telling me, he goes, in America, we make a lot of money and we have this big house. My parents' house is like 2,200 square feet, but to him it was like a giant, right? He's like, we have this big house. He goes, and I never see my kids. He goes, when I was a kid, we always saw each other all the time because we had and he goes, and it was wonderful. We were always together. And as a kid, oh God, Dad, what are you talking about? He's right.
Yeah.
He's so right,
Yeah. I mean, I'm really trying to this new phase of our life and the new place that we're doing right now. I'm really trying that. Who knows? Maybe I change my mind in a couple of years and I'm like, I need more space. I mean, but right now I feel like I've learned that lesson and I'm really trying to create something that is like what we need and not beyond that. And and our money and funds can be spent in other things that we enjoy or give us joy in our life. I don't need to have the biggest house on the block just because when in reality, it's like, I'm not even going to use all that stuff.
Right.
So and I agree. It's a really, I'm sure we triggered somebody in that conversation because it's, and I get it.
Listen,
you're 30 years old and you're frustrated because you look at the price of these homes and everything like that. But I don't know. Read Millionaire Next Door.
I bring it back to fitness. You want to be fit and healthy. You're going to be different from everybody. I think we all accept that. If you listen to this podcast, you probably accept that. Like, I'm not going to eat like all my friends, but that's because I'm going to be fit and healthy. It's like that for everything, unfortunately. So speaking of food, Doug, I tried the jerky you made from the butcher box.
Oh, so good, huh?
So what cut was that again?
That is the flat iron steak.
So you took so you used the Traeger.
Yeah.
I did.
Flat iron steak, you sliced it really thin.
Wait, what did you marinate it in?
So it was a recipe I got off the Traeger website. Anybody can find it. Just look for their bourbon jerky. And it's bourbon. It's got Worcestershire sauce. It's got a few other things in it. You marinate it overnight. Put it on the smoker. About 6 hours.
So this is a total hack, right? So you get your grass-fed meat from Butcher Box. The cut you use, I think, is the best one, right?
I mean, I really like that cut.
Okay.
It's very tender.
You get that. You could buy a dehydrator on Amazon for cheap, by the way. You don't have to have a Traeger. You can buy a dehydrator.
Exactly. You can do that.
And what a hack. Marinate it, slice it up. You make yourself some jerky, especially if you have a vacuum sealer. You have just made some snacks that will last you a year.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're high protein, healthy, minimally processed.
Right.
Your kids will,
Not a lot of preservatives added.
It
like
was
some
the
of these
best
other
jerky.
ones.
It was homemade. It was the best jerky I ever had.
And in fact, if you use a dehydrator, it's probably healthier for you.
Oh, you
Because the
think so?
smoke is probably not good for
Yeah.
you. It tastes great.
I'm gonna smoke it. I'm definitely gonna smoke.
I always ignore that.
I mean, that's
part.
what I love about Traeger is that you literally put in, and I guess even if you don't have a Traeger, you have a different smoker, but you put in Traeger and then whatever recipe you're trying to make, and they've got at least 10 of whatever.
But dehydrators, I think you leave them for like 12 hours, 24 hours,
Yeah.
something like that.
You smoked for how long?
6 hours is what it was called for.
At
I
what
think.
temp?
I
180?
think it's 180.
180.
Now,
180,
normally,
yeah.
what do you use that cut from Butcher Box for? Because you order that
I
all
do
the time.
Fajitas?
stir fry.
Oh, yeah.
Stir fry all
So
the
it's
time.
the stir fry. That's the one you want for stir fry.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, I'm going to start doing that because we get we love the tri-tip all day long. We eat that all the time and the ribeye, but I'm going to start ordering that.
I know.
Yeah,
I just
I love
got
it.
my Butcher Box
Ribeye,
yesterday,
steak
but it was
tips.
from the last time that we had already. So I got to have, and I told you guys that I'm going to have Katrina change it. So I'm still got another rotation before I get that box that will have yours in there, and then I'm going to do this because I want it for Max. You know, with kids, it's really tough because they don't have obviously access to a microwave and things like that, and so
And how do you give them a protein
Yeah,
snack?
and
protein
making
snacks are the
making
best.
snacks and meals that high protein that are good. Like we're always looking for hacks like that, and this will be a new one for me is to make our own homemade jerky.
I'm back
with them.
on their gluten-free nuggets kick again. I stopped them for a second because I was eating them too much.
I've increased that.
Why are they
I haven't
so-
slowed
two
down
bags
at
of
all.
that every Butcher Box.
I eat them too much. That's why I just stopped.
Well,
What we're doing.
yeah, Everett eats the whole bag to his dome, so like in a day. And I'm
Bro,
like,
you got
you
two-
got to calm down.
You got two teenage boys. You're just about.
It's
your food
getting
bill's gotta be
crazy
through the
now.
roof.
I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. It's getting wild how much food is being consumed at my house. I'm like trying to keep up, like just to get my share. Now I'm like, it's a fight.
Yeah,
So,
my best friend growing up, I always felt for his mom because she had her husband and then two boys, and I obviously was around them a lot in junior high and high school, and it's like that's all she did was
Dude,
cook.
the teenage
That's
boy.
all she did
All
was
day
cook.
long.
Full-time job was like
I know, I feel
she
bad.
was in the kitchen like preparing for the next meal or the dessert to come, and there was always something.
we'll see. And I'm trying to remind my wife though. I mean, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure if you would
I
have
have
asked
to
her,
reiterate
she'd say
that
that.
sometimes because
Yeah.
it gets frustrating. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot.
Teenage
of meat.
boy metabolism, especially if they're athletes, it's like, where are you? Is this food? What is this disappearing? How's this even happening?
Totally,
right now?
Yeah.
Crazy. Most kids' vitamins are just sugary crap. It's candy. It doesn't even give your kids the right nutrients, and it's full of sugar. Well, Hiya Health is different. This is a multivitamin that we give to our kids. Not a lot of sugar, and it's got the right nutrients that your children need. So go to their link. Go to Hiya Health. That's HIYA health.com/mind pump. On that link, you'll get 50% off your first order. All right, back to the show.
First question is from M.A. Meyer 16. What are your thoughts on colostrum? Seems like it's getting popular and would love to know what you guys think and when or if you would find it useful.
Colostrum, interesting. This is the first milk that comes out of a cow when the cow has a calf, and it's higher in growth factors, antibodies. It's got benefits for the immune system. It seems to have gut health benefits in humans. It's advertised, however, as something more than it actually is. Like if you
like
took
Hair,
Anabolic
nails,
or-
right?
yeah.
yeah, like yes, like anabolic's a big one. Like
Yeah, they
colostrum
say it a lot.
was a bodybuilding supplement back in the 90s, and the way they advertised it was like, baby cows, they grow so much in the first couple of years of life, and they say it was colostrum. It's good for you if you could tolerate dairy. It's healthy for you.
Is it irrelevant if you're eating a maximum amount of protein intake on a daily basis, or are the benefits that all the studies show? Does it matter where you are protein? Because a lot of times these things, they show these benefits in the context of a low protein diet or suboptimal amount of protein, and then adding colostrum puts you to this new level versus if you were already eating optimal protein, very similar to like EAA stuff, right? Stuff like that. Is it like that, or does not matter?
No, I mean it has compounds in it that are unique, especially for gut health. More studies need to be done, but they do find like it helps people with like certain gut health issues, colitis, diarrhea. It's been shown to help. So for gut health and immune system health, it seems to be beneficial regardless. So it's a healthy product. It's a healthy thing to consume. But the way that they're advertising is like this magic thing. And to be honest with you, I think, you'll probably get a lot of the benefits that you would get from colostrum from raw milk as well. I know some people get real angry with that. So would this make a huge difference? It's mixed. Anecdotally, for me, it's mixed. I can't have colostrum because it's dairy. So if I have it, it's going to bother me just like milk would. But I've had clients use it, and I'd say the results were mixed. I've had some clients say, "Oh yeah, I noticed a benefit to my."
But what if you
health.
get it from the actual source, like from breast banks?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I heard bodybuilders doing that.
They were doing that.
I couldn't believe it.
But if you look it up, you can see like it helps with intestinal permeability, so it helps close the junctions that can cause leaky gut syndrome in some individuals. It seems to be beneficial for gut microbiome. Again, it's got higher levels of some of the concentrations of antibodies, the IgA, IgG antibodies that seem to fight viruses and bacteria. So it's like a health food, I would say. I would put it up there as like with a health food. So what would you get from it? Well, something similar like you would get
like
from
a
eating
probiotic
other kind of health foods.
Yeah.
If you can have dairy, I would say give it a shot. Now, you could buy powdered colostrum supplements, but I think you can buy colostrum in milk, like in liquid form, at certain grocery stores. I think Whole Foods sells it, and that's where I would go. I would go with something like that and add it to your protein shake. See if you notice a difference. But this isn't like a top 10
Not
supplement.
the super game changer.
No.
Next question is from Greg Martirano. How did the overhead squat assessment become the go-to for movement patterns and posture? What other assessments do you find to be valuable?
Ooh, who picked this? Good question.
I do.
Yeah, this is a good question.
I
love the squat.
I don't think it's the go-to for movement patterns, but it is a nice general assessment starting point, right? So arms up overhead, you do a squat. When you start to see breakdowns, you'll be able to see breakdowns in ankle mobility, hip strength and mobility and stability.
Pelvic hip.
Yeah, the lumbar, the thoracic, right, shoulder mobility. So it kind of highlights a lot of potential things.
I don't think there's a single test you can do to highlight as many. I mean, it's more than that. I mean, you can see forward head, you could see shoulder issues, you can see spine, hip, knee, ankle, foot. I mean, it's the entire kinetic chain. You get at least a glimpse into the entire kinetic chain in that test. Doesn't mean that it's the end all. I mean, there's a reason why we built MAPS Prime and we added to it, but it's a part of it. I think the squat assessment is the gold standard of like a single movement. But I mean, there's companies like the name's slipping me, Justin. I know you know the FMS that are way more extensive, and incredible assessments. But it's a lot to take a client through every single time. It requires a lot of tools and time just to assess it. I think again, I'm obviously biased, but I'm very proud of what we built in MAPS Prime because not only is a squat assessment in there, but then there is a overhead wall test, and then there's a windmill, which what the squat assessment lacks is a deeper peering into the upper body, right? So that's what the wall test does.
Spine rotation.
No rotation.
And then there's no rotational component, so it doesn't address all the planes where that's where the windmill comes in. So I feel like what we created with MAPS Prime is superior to that, and I think, and yet it's simple enough that you could do that to every client in a short period of time and get a very good look into their movement patterns.
Yeah, but I do think it's a great starting point.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's what it serves. A good trainer uses this as a starting point, and then this helps point them into other directions to look closer. So, but it's not by itself the be-all, end-all, but it is a great place to start. There's a reason why the overhead squat assessment is, I think it's present in probably every major national certification, if I'm not mistaken. Every single one has to look at.
It'd be weird if they didn't have it.
Also, we have a special in February, MAPS Anabolic and the No B.S. 6-pack formula together. These programs were actually created to be run together. Great for building muscle, boosting metabolism, burning body fat. Get them both of them, for $59.99. You can check them out at mapsfebruary.com. All right. Back to the show.
Next question is from Lady McDeadlifts. I'm a 48-year-old power lifter. How can I keep my joints healthy so I can continue lifting as long as possible?
One of the best things she could do is to move out of powerlifting temporarily.
Totally.
You know, isometrics, mobility type training. Whenever I had a client that was really into powerlifting that would complain of this, it was normally solved just by phasing them out into a program, a unilateral program, an isometric, a multiplanar, and because they get so fixated on the core lifts, which are incredible and move the needle and awesome. But if you only move in those planes, you will end up having dysfunction in other places, or at the very least start to see and feel joint pain from that. And so the simplest way, in my opinion, is to just incorporate a phase every year of a program that addresses unilateral work and isometrics and multiplanar stuff, which that would be like a mass performance.
Yes, powerlifting is this, like all sports, it's extreme. So anytime you have an extreme pursuit, you start to either compensate or you kind of you look past certain issues.
Something's
got to
give.
Perform.
Something's got to give.
So that's why you see powerlifters or cyclists or tennis players as they start to get in their 40s that are real competitive. They start to wear knee sleeves and
you just get really strong in one direction, whereas like you're leaving the other components behind. So that need to support you in other types of movements. And these are movements that are everyday movements you're going to experience just walking, being in the shower, in your car, and like an abrupt, quick acceleration could, then become an injury because we're so aggressively reacting. So it's just like training your body to be resilient and to adapt towards these other types of forces you're not experiencing.
Yeah, the two pieces of advice I would give with this. Well, first off, if you look at the data, the best data that we have on how to avoid injury in a sport, and I say best data because it's the most data, okay, shows that cross-training, meaning training in different athletic pursuits or training in different ways, is a phenomenal way to avoid overuse injury. So that's kind of what we're talking about with powerlifting. Like, do movements that aren't involved in powerlifting, train in different planes of motion, work on stability and balance, work on those types of things. That'll help prevent issues. The second thing I would say is, because you're an athlete, you're a powerlifter, your sport is to lift as much as possible, is to not be so hyper-focused on how much weight you can put on the bar all the time, because that will make you overlook things, right? You feel a little bit of pain. Well, I'm going to foam roll a little more and push harder, right? Oh, it hurts a little bit. Let me try some knee sleeves. Let me get a tighter belt or whatever. Yeah. And then the injuries start to pile on. So if you're not so laser focused on just the weight and you play more of the long game, then you're gonna do better off. That's the challenge, though, right? You're competitive. It's very what makes you successful as an athlete is that laser focus. Yeah. But when you get to your 40s, you got to play that long game and slow yourself down before you start to feel the problems. Once you start to feel the problems, now you got to go back and fix things. But if you do this before, then you're going to avoid them.
Next question is from CMOS23. How many years would you guys have stuck with this had you not been successful within a few years?
Is that you all day today? Those are fun questions.
You know why I like this question here is because when I look back to when we started the show, we all had jobs. We all came in after work. Mm-hmm. We would record together episode after episode till 10, 11, midnight. And then, all of us had to work the next day at 8 a.m. or whatever. And, I liked it. I loved it. I enjoyed it.
It was like therapeutic in a weird way.
It was enjoyable. So I think I would have done this for a long time because I enjoyed it so much. And I think I would have seen value in it beyond money for a while. I don't know how many years that would have been, but I mean, we didn't make a single dollar for a year. Yeah. We didn't ask for $1 for a year. Yeah. So for a full year, we worked our job and did this.
Even when we started to make money, we didn't spend it. We kept it in a bank account, reinvested it in this place. Yeah. So it really wasn't until
till 2 years.
Yeah, almost year 3 before we actually felt it. It's a fun question to speculate. It's real easy to say I would do it forever.
No, that's not realistic.
But it's not. We wouldn't. But you also have to understand this. Like, one, when none of us came into this with this like, oh, it's good, we're going to be killing it the next month or anything like that. So we had, I think we had a very clear vision of how this could take a long time, and we're going to have to do a lot of reps, and we're going to suck at the beginning. So I think we were very ready and prepared for that. I mean, I would at least have given it 3 years of not being successful. But within those 3 years, I still would have had to have seen some progress in us, to keep me going. And I think that's what happened to us, was that even though we sucked, even though
we sucked less over time.
And, and people didn't know who we were, and we weren't making any waves early on or making any money. I remember we could feel getting better. We could feel the feedback of more people telling us, thanking us, and oh my God, that was so helpful. Or, oh my God, I had no idea. So because we were getting that feedback, even though the business part of it wasn't really cranking yet, that is enough for me to keep going. I mean, if I'm getting feedback in any venture that I'm doing, that I'm improving, I'm getting better, I'm impacting people positively, even if the income isn't there, I'll figure that shit out, which is what we were all doing. We all had other jobs, other incomes to figure the money part out, so we could just focus on the getting good at the business part and helping people. So yeah, I would have done that for a pretty long time. And not been, quote unquote, successful.
If we didn't have families and we were younger, I would have done it even longer because I enjoyed it so much. It was so enjoyable. I think, one of the biggest mistakes or myths that people fall into when they start something new is I need this immediate return. Which is wild to me, especially when you're starting a business. If I started a business, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 or 24 years old. I expected 5 years of work before I really started to do anything. 5 years. You say that to the average person now, and they're like, "Oh my God, 5 years."
Well, this is why I love and I keep parroting this, because I think it's such a powerful way to convey this to the generation coming up, or any entrepreneur for that matter. That the first 3 years is the learn phase. You're not even in the earn phase yet. You haven't even earned the right to be in the earn phase. You're still in the learn phase of a business in the first 3 years. So if you truly embody that, if you're going through that first year or two and you're struggling, you're not making any money, and you're supposed to. And I think there is this, because and it's worse today than it's ever been, as far as this misconception of overnight success, because some kid made a viral video and now he's got, or said Haktua, and now 100 million people are paying attention to them. And then now they can pretty much make a t-shirt line or any stupid business. And, they are now an entrepreneur, or they've created a business, but they really haven't. They got a ton of attention overnight for some reason, and they had something they could peddle or sell. And so for a small window, they made an income. It doesn't mean you built a business. And really building a business takes years. And and this has been well known in the entrepreneur world for a long time, that 5 to 7 years is what it takes to build a business. And most people would say, don't even expect to turn a profit until you're in year 3. Which is why I like you're in the learn phase the first 3 years, then you start to barely turn a profit year 4. 5, you're like, oh, I can feed my family. 6, you're like, oh, I got a legit business. So, 6 years. And we've distorted that, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and just think it's going to happen like overnight once they go famous on social media. It's that's not a business.
99.9% of successful businesses took years to build. The 0.1% that sometimes we see had some crazy luck or some ridiculous thing that happened, and of that 0.1%, many of them crumble under that type of growth because they weren't ready. Like you mentioned the Haktua girl, right? Blew up. Where is she now?
Right.
She didn't have any infrastructure, no
she didn't have a business.
No train, no
she business. Didn't have a business. Just because you make money doesn't mean you have a business.
That's right.
And so, I would challenge people that, oh man, I got a friend, he makes all this money on Instagram or this and that. Well, get back to me in 10 years.
Yeah.
So he figured out how to do something gimmicky on Instagram that gets the attention of all these people. And when you have that kind of volume, a percentage of people will just buy a thing from you for whatever reason, or that you're likable. And so, but that doesn't mean you've built a good business.
It's no different than resting your faith on the lottery. Like, oh, I'm gonna play the lottery. That's how I'm gonna get rich. Okay, go play the lottery. I'll see you in 10 years and see how rich you are in 10 years. It doesn't work that way. So it takes time. And I think luckily for us, we had all been entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because we had started this in our mid 30s, and we all had been entrepreneurs for so long. I don't think any of us had any expectations of anything.
There wasn't as many gurus out there telling you can do it in 30 days either. To be fair, that's ruined everybody's perception of what an entrepreneur really is.
I mean, there wasn't as many, Justin, but they still existed.
I mean, they did.
You know what I'm saying? What was it?
People bought their
Asian
courses.
guy on the boat. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were definitely
but
guys.
I feel like we'd make fun of that. It wasn't like so pervasive that like it's on your phones every day.
No, you're right. You're right. It is way more popular today. I mean, I love this question. I love this conversation because this is a part that it really excites me about where our business is going right now, because a big part of where our company is going is shifting into focusing on entrepreneurs and trainers per se, right? And anybody in the health fitness field that's trying to scale a business in person and digitally. And I love helping them because there is this perception around this, overnight success and going viral on Instagram. And that is not the philosophy that we teach from. It is adding value to people's life. It's
building a sustainable career.
That is how you build a career and how you build a business, is add so much value to other people's lives. The money will come. And if you focus on that and getting good at that and improving that, you will have a sustainable business and income. If you chase all the shiny things and the fame and the attention and then go, I'll sell t-shirts or I'll sell a course or I'll sell a thing, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you're the 1% that figures that out. And
I don't know anybody that's gotten lucky like that. I know so many people who chase the shiny things who now are in their 40s.
Maybe the pet rock guy.
They're still not doing anything.
I know quite a few people that have had success through gimmicky YouTube and Instagram stuff, and they got millions of followers and they made some money along the way.
Yeah.
But none of them have a sustainable business.
Right, where are they now?
Yeah, and many of them are struggling today because they didn't build it on those principles of what am I doing to add value to people's lives? And then not only one, figure that out, and then two, how do I continue to do that and improve upon that? If you have that, then you have a real legitimate business. And if you don't have that, that's what you should be trying to figure out.
Start pivoting now
before you try and figure out how do I get 1 million followers.
So the short answer to this is we would have done it for at least a few years before.
At least three to four. To realize that we weren't adding any value to anyone's life.
Right,
and that's the part that I think is
it's a hard pill. You do have to move on.
But if our people were constantly telling you, let's say we weren't making any money at all,
but we're getting all that
we're getting that feedback,
we would have figured out a way.
We would have kept going.
That's still success, though.
We would have kept going.
It's defined differently, right?
That's right.
Because we're getting that back.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat for men. This is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.